Ever wish you had someone to talk to anytime, anywhere, no matter what you're going through? Meet PsychPal, your 24/7 AI companion designed to help you process your thoughts, calm your mind, and keep you moving forward. Chat anytime during a panic attack, on a restless night, or just when you need to vent. Prefer talking instead of typing? Try voice journaling. PsychPal listens, transcribes, and truly understands. You can even upload screenshots of tough conversations and it'll help you unpack how they made you feel. PsychPal keeps life organized too. It can add appointments to your calendar, track your mood, and even summarize your sessions for your therapist so you'll never lose progress. Plus, built in crisis resources are always just one click away. It's a privacy first, constantly evolving, made to complement your professional care, not replace it. Ready to try it out? Head over to the link in this episode and use my code Pete at checkout to get 20% off your first month subscription to PsychPal. PsychPal, because your mind deserves a companion too. There we go. I think that's the one I like. We got it. We got it. Boom.
What do I do when life's so meaningless? What do I do when I just ain't feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Anyone feeling this? What do I do when life's so meaningless? What do I do when I just ain't feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Anyone feeling this? Meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Desires not to exist.
To another exciting episode of Pete Freaks Society. My guest today is the author of I'm Almost Okay, the book that chronicles her experience managing her father's cancer diagnosis. Please welcome in the one, the only, Amanda Landis. Amanda, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me here.
So, Amanda, why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself, and then we'll get into the book itself.
Sure. So I'm a licensed psychologist, and I spent most of my career working in the forensics field, which is where psychology and the law kind of collide with each other. And since then, I've gone into private practice, which I do mostly now. And I also wrote the book that you were just talking about.
So, Amanda, my first question for you though is forensics and psychology. That's got to be kind of an interesting thing. How did you get into that? Was that something you went to go into originally, or is it something you kind of stumbled across as you were doing your studies?
So it's the thing that kind of got me into psychology. When I
Mm-hmm.
was in college, I wanted to be a writer, and I was taking communications classes and journalism classes, and I didn't like the energy of like that field. It was I've always liked writing, but
Mm-hmm.
just being in the field, it felt like it was kind of like taking the fire out of something that I really liked doing, and I was like super conflicted about what that meant for me. And I was up really late at night, and I was watching all of these like true crime shows and when I couldn't sleep. And my stepmom actually at the time had said, you should like look into this field, forensic psychology, because then like you can do that, like you can do that stuff. And I thought it was super cool. And so I got my master's from John Jay in New York City in forensic psychology, and just kind of hit the ground running from there. My first job was working at it was in a hospital in Brooklyn on a jail unit where people would go when they were the judge or lawyers thought that they weren't competent to stand trials, that they needed some sort of mental health stabilization or information about the legal system in order to move forward in their case. So I worked with those guys for a while. And then I ended up going back to school and getting my doctorate, because you can't, or at the time you couldn't do much in New York with it, just a master's in psychology. You needed all of the street cred in order to get a job. And then after that, I worked in a forensic hospital with people who had been found not responsible for their crimes because of mental illness. And so it was a lot of, we call it risk mitigation, which is trying to help people get better with the ultimate goal of making sure that we're keeping society safe by keeping people who are not safe or at risk for hurting other people in a place where they would get treatment and not have opportunities to hurt people or make people unsafe.
Jesus, wow! Did you deal with some really interesting individuals though? You had to have some interesting people come across, especially in that area of field. So you know when was the moment though you wanted to write this book? I know it's about you dealing with your dad's cancer diagnosis and things like that, which I know is hard though, because when you hear those words, it's a real rough subject to deal with.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it was totally a rough subject and a rough pretty like long stretch of time in my life. I knew I always wanted to write a book, and I didn't know it was going to be about this. I didn't know that this was going to be a thing. But I used to always joke with my family that I was going to have to wait until everyone was dead in order to write my memoirs, because otherwise there would be like too much backlash, which like obviously made everyone uncomfortable, because like what am I going to say?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but this ended up not being that, right? Like this isn't this book is not me kind of like saying like let me air out all of like my dirty family secrets and like make them into jokes for like people's entertainment. This was something that I had been kind of like, since my dad got sick, I had been mulling this around in my head for a while about writing the story, because the one of the things that I like personally experienced through my dad getting sick, my marriage kind of falling apart, having problems getting pregnant, losing a baby to a miscarriage, was that like there's a lot of shame that people hold for these experiences that we have that are out of our control. And I think it becomes like this natural human reaction to kind of like turn inward and just like feel badly that like maybe something is wrong with us for the things that we are going through or have gone through. And what I was really hoping to do, for other than kind of just like have it be this like cathartic thing where I got to tell my story, was to be able to kind of like disempower some of that shame. Because when we talk about things and we normalize them, it's a way of saying like, this isn't my fault. This isn't something that I need to feel badly about. This is nothing that I've done.
No, I agree. I think it's really great though. I think you bring up some really great points there, especially with like mental health as well. It's another one of those things where it's like when you talk about it, people feel so guilty about it. Like, oh, I had a miscarriage. Okay, well, because that's not maybe his first response is, oh my God, something's wrong with her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that whole thought
Mhm.
process comes up because we're all thinking worst case scenarios, instead of just being like, okay, things happen like that, and especially grief. Grief's an interesting topic though that we come across a lot of times with people, because a lot of people don't want to handle that conversation. They're like, oh, there's a
Mhm.
timeline for grief. There really isn't, and you could probably tell them that too, because we all deal with it in our own way, and it takes our own timeline for it. Some people get over it right away. Other people sit there, and it kind of bothers them for a bit, and it's great that you're willing to share these kind of things, because it doesn't have to be a weird conversation. Like, you had a lot of things going on at the time, all that stuff, and you look where you're at now. You got your own book published and everything else. You're doing things great. I mean, sometimes you got to go through the rough times to get to the better times, and I think a lot of people, when they experience those things, they're just like, oh God, woe is me, this and that, instead of, like just having an open conversation, because they're scared of that. Think about it. Like people that share things on the internet, hey, listen, no holds barred there, because you don't know what people are going to say nowadays.
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it is scary. And I think it is hard. And I do think there is a place though for the woe is me, like in grief and in being sad about things, right? Like you have to feel how you're gonna feel. And sometimes it does seem like, wow, I just got like the worst end of the stick. Like I have the bad, like the worst luck. Like, why do these things happen to me? And like you can feel that and feel it and think it, and but only do it for a little bit, right? Because if you stay in that place, I think that's when it becomes a problem. Because yeah, like bad things happen and we all go through it, and life is messy, and it's messy upon messy sometimes. But I think the knowing that like you can move through it, and that there is another side to it, is it's really important to hold on to that, like even when things are super hard.
Yeah. So, you have any advice for people at home, like just dealing with grief, like either side of the coin, obviously, because a lot of people that go through it, got a lot going on, and then the people that are always trying to help those people, they don't know what to say in those moments. You know what I mean? It's like, what do you say to somebody that's grieving besides trying just to be there for them, and just offer to do things? Do you have any other advice for people?
I think I think it's important, like as somebody grieving, to kind of like figure out what you do and don't like from the people around you, and to find ways to like communicate that to them. And like, no, it's not your responsibility necessarily to tell the people in your life like how to treat you or what you need. But I think, to your point, like nobody knows what to do or say, and everyone becomes like really awkward around this. So so you do, and you do to some degree, right? Like if you don't want the people in your life to disappear and give you your space, if the thing you want is for them to kind of like treat you like you're normal because you are, or to show up for you in a certain way, you have to let them know. You have to let them know that, because otherwise they might be thinking that they're doing the thing that you want and doing the completely wrong thing. So I think letting people know what you're looking for can be really helpful. And I think also, like, as a friend, family support of somebody grieving, show up, right? Like, and showing up doesn't mean like, oh, let's talk about this horrible thing all of the time, like, or expecting somebody to kind of just constantly want to go to that place where they're talking about their traumas and their emotions about what happened, but where maybe you just want to talk about normal things, right? Or
Yeah.
like maybe you just want to, you know have somebody send you like a recipe or a funny video, or just be like, hey, I like thinking of you, and just like kind of like engage with you in like a more normal way. So like show up for the people in your life. Like you don't have to know what to say. There is no right answer. Like nobody knows what to say, but like just when you don't know what to say, just say anything, say something.
Yeah. Don't make it awkward, or remember the person for the great things that they did and all the great memories they had, things like that. Try and keep it positive, and it, like I said, it's hard though, man. I mean, like, especially when you lose your parent, because you were taking care of them all that time. You're watching them slowly deteriorate with the cancer and things like that. It had to be hard though
Mm.
for you, wasn't it? There were you. I mean, well, you know what you have more insight to this than we do though, but you probably had a little more, probably knew what to say in some of those moments that other people didn't though. But after he passed though, and this book came out, what is the response of the family members? Anybody out there really getting upset about it, or did they disagree with some of your statements in the book at all?
No, I think that most people kind of respect the position that I came from. What I really tried to do was, I tried to tell my story honestly,
Hmm.
without without hurting other people in the process. So yeah, I talk about some things with my previous marriage, some conflicts that I had with like a sister, during this. But my goal wasn't to make them look bad. I
Yeah.
wasn't trying to like use this as a platform to like win some sort of like unwinnable argument.
Yeah. No,
So
I
I
get
tried to
that.
be really I tried to be really diplomatic about it. I just, I wanted to tell my version of things. Um, and my dad was a super positive person. And so I try to like keep him on my shoulder for that too, and say like, okay, well, like if this is supposed to be positive, if this is supposed to help people, do I really need to include this anecdote? Do I really like need to just like make this like my venue for complaining about somebody in my life? Like, no, I don't. Like it doesn't match the goal of like my overall like point in doing it. So most of the people have been fine with it. I mean, nobody's really told me if they hadn't, but I imagine, just like knowing the fieriness of some of my family members, that like I certainly would have heard it if they like really were horrified by something I said.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, you could have came from the scorn lover aspect when you talk about
Right.
your ex husband, like, what, forget you. Yeah. Those kind of things.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like that though. I mean, you just came at it as it is. You just were very respectful of other people. There was no need to throw people under the bus. I mean, if things didn't work out between you and your ex, you like, it's proof that you don't have to be an asshole about everything. You know what I'm saying? Like some people just like to trash their exes, like, and it's just not, I don't see the point. What's the necessary need? Like I was that person at one point, but now I look back at it and I go,
Hmm.
wow, what a dickhead I was for no reason. It's like, things happen for reasons. And if it
Yeah.
didn't, I wouldn't be where I'm at now, because me and my ex, when we were together, I started this show originally because when I noticed that I was having problems, I was like, I was wondering, like, hey, listen, I wonder how many people are talking about mental health these days. And when I looked it up, you
Hmm.
see a lot of doctors, which don't get me wrong, I respect what you guys do, respecting, but like, where's the regular conversation of people just like me who have no
Yeah.
idea what we're talking about? And we can lean on you guys though too to learn some new things. Like you guys can teach us new techniques and that was a great thing when I opened the doors to the show. I was just like, I put it out there. A lot of people responded, and people have been responding ever since because it's just real and raw. We're just having a real conversation here. Like I could sit here and drill you 20 questions, but I won't get the real
Yeah.
answers out of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I think, I mean, I think it's good to have real conversations about it. And I
mhm,
think like one thing that I always try to bring to it, Yeah, I have a degree. I went to school for this. I studied a really long time, but like, I don't know. Like, I don't know the answers to somebody else's problem. Like, I can try to help you figure out what will help
Do
you,
you
but
get a lot
like,
of those questions of, hey Amanda, what's my problem? They start asking random things. You're like, I'm not a psychic guy.
right? Right? I mean, it's sometimes, when I'm working with clients, even in private practice, they'll say like, "Well, do you think that I should do this?" And I'm like, "I don't know," and like nobody
Yeah.
loves that answer, but like I'm not gonna pretend that I'm somebody that I'm not. Like I can give you my opinion on something, but that's like people you're not coming to therapy for my opinion necessarily, right? Like you would talk to your friends if you just wanted somebody's opinion about what you should or shouldn't do, right? It's like the idea of like how do you figure it out for yourself, and how do you like use therapy or like use somebody for support that can be like just like not judgmental
Yeah.
and kind of like guide you through to like whatever like your correct is. Because I mean, anybody who read my book can see like I am a messy person. Like it's not like I am sitting on some like
Yeah,
mountain,
but I think that's
like
what
with
makes
all of
it
the
relatable,
answers.
though, Amanda. They could read about your life and see that you had your own problems and you're still pushing. So it's like it's inspiring in ways to people because it's like,
Yeah.
okay, well, she's not perfect. Because when you go in to see a lot of these doctors, a lot of people don't have their preconceived notions about therapists and
Mhm.
how these other people, different things. Like they would go on the internet and use Wikipedia, so I like to tell them to stop using it. You know what I'm saying? It's all it's all people's thoughts, not really actual facts here. But it's really cool though because like people that read the book then come see you. Do they reference it at all to you? Like, hey, listen, I read your book. Da, da, da. You know what I mean? Like they get a little starstruck because it's like, hey, listen, my therapist wrote a book, man. This is really
Yeah.
cool that she's so open about her life because a lot of people don't realize a lot of therapists have their own therapists too. Because some of the things
Right.
y'all deal with, man, let me tell you, I give y'all credit because especially where you went from forensic science to where now it's like
Yeah.
man, I don't know. That's such a crazy turn though, because like the things you've seen, the people you talk to, the stuff you see, it's really cool that you get both of the perspectives of things. Like you've seen some pretty extreme cases, I'm sure. Now you go
Mhm.
to private practice, and it's like, yeah, I'm sure you have some interesting cases that come across.
I do, I do, and it's nice. And I think I like appreciate the difference between both. Like I really liked working in like,
Hmm.
they consider it like a really high risk acute population. There were some real challenges there, but I feel like there were some real wins. Um and in private practice it's different wins. And it's not that to me it's not that it's not as interesting like it because um I think it's all interesting, but I think in private practice, like you really can feel like you're helping somebody, where in a way that is for me as a professional, maybe a little bit more gratifying, right? In
Yeah.
the short term, because somebody can come to me and be like, I'm afraid of spiders, and we can walk through like, okay, here are 5 steps that we can take to make you not afraid of spiders as much. And if at the end they're not afraid of spiders, like that's a win, right? Like you've done it, and their life is better because of it. Versus like in forensics where like the problems are way more complicated. It's a lot more complex, and like unfortunately like the endings just aren't always as happy.
So, Amanda, I gotta say, I read your profile here, Kate, and I remember the last line
Yeah.
that says, "I share a good metaphor, TV show reference." It's like, yep, that's my lady right there. Because I like to reference a lot. Well, I use a lot of different like movie references and things for certain things.
Sure.
So, do you do that during your practice too? Like, you give it a little more like real world aspect to people. Like, hey, listen, I'm watching this show. Have you ever seen this? That's the kind of conversation you have with me sometimes. I'm like, oh, have you ever seen this movie? And then you start describing the moment to them, like, this is what I'm thinking of, what you're making me think of right this minute.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely, I with movies, with TV shows, with songs, it's a little bit sad now though, because I feel like I'm like middle aged, so like I make some of these movie references, and I'm dating myself, and people don't necessarily like know what I'm talking about, and it's like astonishing to me, like, wait, you have not seen Fight Club? Like you do not know about
Exactly.
this specific line from Fight Club because you're
Right.
25? Like, okay, I got to recalibrate a little.
Yeah, no, I get that too. They all look at me like I'm strange when I make these movie references. I always tell them, bonus points if you know what movie I'm referring to. Most people are like, wait, what movie
Yeah.
is he talking about? They tried to figure out what movie I'm talking about. And I picked the most
Mhm.
random ones. Like Clerks was my favorite one because I just loved everything Kevin Smith did. But it set the
Yeah.
aspect for people that have worked in retail for as long as I had, in dealing with the customer aspect of things. Like it was spot on with
Mhm.
some of these things that you deal with, like the stupid questions you get. I'm just like, Oh my god! So I used to quote that movie all the time to people, or like I like those parody movies. Like Meet the Spartans was a favorite one of me and one of my coworkers. So we sit there and start quoting the movie to each other across from everybody around us. You could tell had no idea what we were talking about, but me and him would just go back and forth. That one in Nacho Libre was a big one for us too. We
Uh-huh.
started, we're quoting that one as well. The eagle powers thing. It's like summon your eagle powers, and you hear him in the back of there screaming, "I'm trying!" And things like that. But it's always fun because it mixes up the conversation, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like you're getting talked to like by like a doctor. Like some people don't like therapists because they feel like it's like you lay on the couch and start asking them questions and things,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, it's not like that though.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't have to be. Like I definitely don't take myself seriously in that way. I worked with a psychologist who used to make like she used to make our hairdresser call her doctor. Like she just in the world, she would just introduce herself as Dr. So and so to everybody, which is I'm uncomfortable with that. That's not it's not my style. I have a lip tattoo with my credentials on it. Like I'm not like I don't feel like a grown up serious person a lot of the time. I try to act like one so that people have
She's like, I
some
try to act
confidence
like
that I know
one.
what I'm talking about, right? Like, I, and I do. I more or less know what I'm talking about, but I don't think it's helpful to kind of like come from this like authoritarian place.
So no, go ahead. Sorry, I
The thing
cut.
that yeah, yeah, no, the thing that like I have found to be most helpful in therapy, in forensics, in professionally, and even in like my personal relationships when I've had therapists, it is the connection that you make with a person, like, and
Mhm.
hopefully there's like the education and all of the knowledge to back it up, but like you have to want to talk to the person for it to be helpful, like
Some
at
people
all.
don't know the art of a conversation anymore, and that's a scary part. When I was on some of these dating apps, I noticed that was the problem with a lot of these people. One girl, in fact, she was a behavior analyst. So I asked her this question. I was like, "So let me ask you a question. When you're dating people, do you sit there and study their different behaviors they do?" And she's like, "Yeah." I was like, "That's really weird, though. Like you're sitting there like judging me before even judging me. You know what I mean? It's like you're like watching all these strange behaviors and just watching them." Had no personality either. Nice girl, but no personality whatsoever. It's like you can't even have a conversation. And I'm like, is it really that we're at that point now where we just can't have a simple conversation anymore without it turning into something else, right off the bat? Like it's so crazy because like I some of these people I met were just like, what the hell is wrong with them? Like I get they're so jaded because the things they dealt with the past, but at the same time, it's like, okay, cool. Yeah. All right. I don't see this going anywhere because you can't talk to him. It's like, what's the point? So. But I
Right.
did want to ask you, what got you into psychology? Was it something you've always been interested in, though? Like, I mean, I know you got into forensics and things like that as well, but it's
Mhm.
interesting to hear people's stories about how they got into it. Is it mental health been a big thing for you guys in your family or something, or is it just something you've always been interested in?
I think I didn't realize like how much of a thing mental health was in my family until I got into psychology really. But like one as I was starting to like learn about it more, one of the things that I really did find useful was that it was really helping me like understand and make sense of a lot of like the things I guess like in my earlier life, and even in my like through my 20s, like things that I had been like confused by or didn't make sense. It was a really great way to kind of say like, oh, okay, like this is why maybe that person was acting that way, or like this is why like I wanted to like smash that fish tank in my room when I was like this age, right? Like so I feel like it helped me figure out a lot about me and the world around me, and it's something that I try to like impart on the people that I work with, is just like how do we understand our own little ecosystems and how we like fit into the rest of the world.
Yeah, yeah, that's true, and that's interesting too. Because like, uh, a lot of people that get into the fields, they usually branch off to something else. So, have you added anything different into your practice now? Have you looked at like holistic medicines or was that stuff? Because I know you mentioned energy early on, so I don't know if
Mhm.
you're familiar with the principles of energy and things like that. Like some people are energy sensitive, some people are empaths and things like that too. Do you deal in any of that
Mhm.
kind of stuff?
Not so much like on the books. I and honestly, I would say before my dad passed away, I was a person that like unless you showed me the facts, like I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like discredited a lot of that stuff. but like I've had a personal experience since my dad has passed, which just make me question like how energy moves through the universe, like
Hmm.
what really happens to people after they die, and just like about like the interconnectedness of a lot of things that I would have, 15 years ago me would have said like you're crazy like for
Yeah.
for saying these things, or like what do you mean you like felt your dad's energy in this
Yeah.
place,
Same.
or like but I've had that experience personally. I don't think I'm particularly crazy,
No.
and it's something I appreciate, and and I just like value being able to be a little bit open to. So like when I talk to people about it in therapy, like I will say things just like that, like, like be open to the experience, like look for signs, because I think if for nothing else, like maybe we don't have a lie detector test to kind of like gauge if this is real or not, but like if it makes you feel good to feel that you are still connected to somebody that is gone and it's not hurting anybody else, then believe it,
Yeah.
believe what makes you feel good.
Yeah, see, I didn't really know much about energy until I interviewed a few people that were doing energy healing type things. And, I had the
Mhm.
weird sensations. Like, I couldn't tell you what they were, but then it made sense after a while. Like, I found I'm energy sensitive. So, like, I have this intuition that I can tell within the first few minutes if I like somebody or not. I know it sounds weird,
Mhm.
but like, you could
No.
feel the vibe off of somebody. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know how to start reading
Yeah.
people a little bit. Like, I've learned how to read body language and things like that too. I started studying human
Mhm.
design a little bit too. So I found out, I'm a man generator, which explains why I do 20,000 things at once, on top of everything I'm doing now, So
Yeah.
I thought the principle was interesting. Even spirituality. We had Mel Goldman come on. She talked a lot about spirituality as well. And I thought it was interesting because so many people discredit it. But I'm like, okay, so are you religious then? Okay, so technically you're spiritually it's something then because you believe in something. Whatever you put there
Right.
in place of it, whether you're Roman, Greek, whatever, have the multiple gods for different things. Doesn't matter. I think we're still talking to something up there that you feel that's there at the end of the day, kind of thing. So, and I agree with you though. Like sometimes you can feel the presence of other people. Like when my godmother passed, I knew something was wrong the day that it happened. I didn't know right that moment, but I knew something weird was going on, and like I could feel it. And I was like,
Mhm.
"Whoa, hey, something's not right." And I was talking to another friend of mine who has another podcast called "You Have the Power," and we were interviewing. And like in the moments, like you feel it, and you're like, And then I went to check my messenger, and I got a message from my cousin that my godmother had passed, and I was like, damn, that's what
Mhm.
that feeling was. You know what I mean? Like you could just feel like
Yeah.
something's wrong. And people just look at you weird when you tell them that, but it's like we're all made of energy. Think about it. Everything around us is made of energy. Like just tapping into it is it's pretty interesting too. Now like now I'm not saying like we're psychic, which I mean there are some people I met that have some very interesting stories. Where one of them she was in the UK. She said she found somebody in Canada but because she could see through the person's like eyes of where they were spiritually, which it's hard to explain that
Huh.
kind of stuff. Like, how are you going to say
Yeah.
she's wrong when she's literally she found this person nobody else can find?
Right. Right. My general feeling about it is like, again, like if you're not hurting anybody,
Yeah,
believe what you want. And I just think that there's so much about the universe and the world that we don't understand.
yeah,
And to
exactly.
kind of like, I don't want to be on the wrong side of that, of standing in some authority of like, well, I know for a fact, religion is real, religion is fake, there's life after death, there isn't. Like I don't know, just like with everything else in my life, like I don't know anything other than what's happening in this moment and what's happened in the past. Like I can't tell you what's going to happen 30 seconds from now. So believe it, right? Like if you get comfort from it, if it gives you clarity, if
Yeah,
it helps you in some way, it's not hurting other people, like have at it.
exactly. So, Amanda, the real question though is, do you have any other books planned? I know a lot of authors when they get that first book going, some of them already planned the next one going on. So, do you have anything coming down the line you haven't told us about yet?
I don't, I would like to write another book about some of the other experiences I had like when I was younger in my childhood, probably written in that funny vein, probably in the like maybe I have to wait until some people have passed in order to write the book.
Oh, okay,
But it's
okay.
gonna be but it'll probably be a little bit before I do that. I loved writing this book. I really enjoyed the process. It's a lot of work.
Hmm.
And it was a lot of just like I put a lot of myself into it, and I feel like I need to kind of just like sit in that space for a little bit before I kind of
It
go
had
back
to be
into it.
hard though, because you're remembering somebody who's gone now, and then you feel the feelings and moments. And I know I've met some authors who wrote their books. Like one was about her dad who got gunned down because he was a cop in front of the school, and she was like,
Mm,
there's moments where she had to take months off between chapters of the book because it was that rough to relive it all. But she was feeling the
yeah.
feelings in the moment of it, and things like that too. And another girl, she was writing the story about her brother. He had battled addiction. Unfortunately, lost him to suicide. And I
Mm,
found out that her grandfather and her dad used to beat him in the corner of the kitchen, which was weird because
ugh,
when we were talking, she was telling us like he kept attacking me in the corner of the kitchen, the same spot, and then we found out that's why he did it, though. So
mm,
I find the whole subject just interesting. Like I did a whole series in September about suicide awareness last year. Okay, we met a woman who told her
mhm.
kids about the father taking his life, but the way she explained it to him was in color. And things like that too. And then there's another girl that really turned our heads that we were talking to her, didn't realize that she had actually shot herself in the head, but lived because it missed.
Oh my goodness.
She lucky when it landed, but we were living from the eyes and perspective of the person that had actually attempted and was laying there trying to figure out
Mm,
what was going on. And like I'm sitting there going, like, wait a minute, dude, something here's not making sense. Like I've had some
yeah.
really strange stories on here, and things like that too. So my question though is when it comes to mental health, what do you think the earliest ages that we should start talking to these children about it? Like, I mean, obviously, if we're talking to younger kids, break it down to somebody understand because we want them to understand what their feelings are, do we not?
Right. No, I think we do, and when I was studying this, there's different levels of prevention. So primary prevention is talking
Mm-hmm.
to people before there's a problem. Secondary is like when they're in the midst of something, and then tertiary is when it's kind of like really bad. So like if we're going to break it down, primary would be like talking to elementary school kids about
Mm-hmm.
their feelings and what to do if they don't feel good and who's safe and who's not. And secondary would be then maybe like somebody in high school or in college who's battling with depression or symptoms of something that's starting to impact them. And then tertiary is forensics, where like things have already gone pretty wrong, and now we have to try to figure out how to like undo whatever of that we can. And tertiary is what's exciting, right? Like that's the like sensational stuff, and the primary prevention stuff can kind of feel boring like when you're looking at it, but like it's so important. So I think things like having better classes for women who have just had babies when they get out of the hospital, right? Like that is super
Mm-hmm.
important. And because when you I don't know if it's everybody's experience, but when I was in the hospital after I had my son, they make you watch like 5 videos about like don't shake the baby, which is you're like, yes, you're not supposed to shake the baby, but like I didn't have any understanding of like why I had to watch so many of those videos. Um, or what they were alluding to, which is that like postpartum depression can be a
Exactly.
really debilitating thing, and some people have psychotic features of that, and that's really would be like a terrifying thing. So giving some parent education, giving some guidance to people, so that I think as good parents, like our goal is like I don't want to ruin my kid, right? So like let's help people not ruin their kids as a first step, and then provide people with the supports that they need to make sure that they can kind of like follow through with that goal.
So I did want to ask you though, in your own opinion, why do you think people are so afraid to talk about their mental health? Do you think it's because of the judgment thing? I know people share things in, and yet again, we're back to this subject because my
Yeah.
co-host of another show I do called Voice of the Voiceless, she and I met, and she had told me she had shared her story, but she's schizoaffective. So with that, it gets really
Mhm.
complex. So she's
Sure.
sharing her experience of this thing online for people to better understand this, what she deals with, and the people just responding were so nasty. Oh, go to the hospital,
Mhm.
go talk to, you need to go to this, you need to, it's just, it's crazy though. But why are people
Yeah.
so afraid of it? Like you think about it, all the school shootings that happen, notice that mental health always gets brought up, and but then they brush it under the rug right away. Like nobody wants to deal with it. Why are we so afraid of that? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I think it's really stigmatized in our society, and I think a lot of times people are very fearful of things that they don't understand, and mental health is one of those things that fits into this kind of like amorphous ambiguous gray area, right? If you
Yeah.
go to the doctor because you have diabetes, they'll test your blood, you'll have facts, they'll give you like a clear treatment plan and say, here's what's going to work, do these things, and then you'll feel better. And with mental health, it's not always like that. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's simple, but a lot of times it's much more complicated. And the things that we experience are such a tangled up combination of lived experience,
Yeah.
genetics, what we expose ourselves to in terms of drugs and alcohol. Like there's so many pieces in the puzzle that I think it can be hard to figure out. And another part of it is I think that like it's easy to say, oh, that person's crazy,
Hmm.
or or to kind of like do the stigmas, because for some people, like, it makes us feel normal, right? Like, if you can separate out and say this person is so distinct from me, it means that whatever they're going through can never happen to me.
Yeah.
And people look for that. It's not a healthy way to like look for comfort, but it's something that people do to kind of say, like, to reassure themselves that they're okay, I guess.
Yeah, a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're so oh, those are narcissistic traits," and think I just like it drives me crazy. If people say it, it's like, do you even know what that word means? Like, do you have any idea what? Or is it? I met somebody who had OCD, and they're like, "Yeah, it's so OCD," and she's like, "I hate that when people say that because they have no idea what we deal with. Like, they don't understand the level of things that we go through." And Tourette's was an interesting one too. Me and my
Mhm.
co-host of the other show, we actually had somebody come on, and we were talking to him, and he told us statistically that a lot of less people do a lot of those. Like I love movies, but at the same time, I feel when it comes to those kind of things, they go a little too extreme with it. Like the girl that had Tourette's and
Yeah.
Deuce Bigelow. Remember how she just kind of blurred things out? Well, this gentleman Kevin I met,
Mhm.
he runs a podcast about his own experience with Tourette's, but it's nothing like that though. He said Kevin's like, no, that's actually the low end of the statistics that do it though. But then there's that girl on
Mhm.
TV who had Tourette's as well, and she had all the outbursts and things like that too. And I think that's where we start stigmatizing it a little bit too, because people see that and think that, okay, that's instantly how you tell somebody has Tourette's, when they really have no idea about 90% of these things that like BPD. They always say, oh, well, that's bipolar. No, borderline personality disorder and BPD
Mhm.
run the same. We're the same with bipolar, but BPD is way different. You know what I mean? And like
Sure.
when you see these people online that are talking about it, you see the people responding and things like that too. I feel like a lot of these situations, if someone used this magical thing, we have a phone, we pick it up and
Mhm.
maybe Google for 5 minutes, we'd understand a lot more things about other people, or just ask them. A lot of people don't
Right.
mind talking about it. Ask them. They're okay telling you about it. If they don't want to talk to you about it, don't worry about it. Then look it up and see. Like, hey, excuse me, can I ask you a question? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like people forgot how to be human to each other, and it's like now that the internet's introduced, now it's like it's a free for all out there. It really is. So my last question before we get to the last two is about your son. Okay, so my question to you is,
Mhm.
what age range is he, if you don't mind me asking?
He is 6. He just turned 6.
Okay, so with the internet the way it is, are you concerned about his interaction with people on the internet? Because I asked this question because early this year, 10 to 14, the rate of suicide in that age range is going up now. With him being 6,
Yeah.
obviously you have an honest conversation with him about things and you'll notice things before other people. Are you concerned with
Mhm.
the internet, with the way he's going to be in 4 years, what's going to be like for him?
It is. I mean, and I think even like in school now, I went in on a school trip and the kids were all like doing something on iPads, a learning thing, but they were all like, the learning is very like screen based. So they were like all sitting on their iPads. And he didn't even realize that I came in the room for like 10 minutes because they're just like so focused on on the screens. And I think it's like a delicate balance.
Hmm.
Definitely will kind of monitor,
For sure.
surveil
For
what's going
sure.
on with him with the internet for sure, and even screen time though. And I think it's how I approach a lot of things parenting, is like I don't want to deprive him of something, because that's when kids then kind of like search for that thing, when like that's what then like that's how they're sneaky, right? If you tell them they
Yeah.
can't eat candy, they're going to sneak and eat candy because they're going to want to do it. So it's a balance of like, how do I allow enough of it so where it doesn't feel like it's something that has to be hidden,
Hmm.
but also like kind of like enforce like, well, there's limits, or like, here's what you can do, here's what you can't do. um and generally create a safe place where he would be comfortable telling me if he did something or found something on the internet that was like
Yeah.
something he shouldn't be looking at.
Yeah, definitely. So, Amanda, we're at that part of the show where told you in the beginning, we have two questions to ask every guest. Now, the
Hmm.
first one is kind of a fun one. So, the question to
Okay.
you is if your mental health had a song, what would you say that song would be? Now, this is a fun one because you get a lot of interesting answers that come out of this question.
That is an interesting one. And I wish I knew that this question was coming because I could have like agonized over like picking the perfect song for that. I guess the first thing that comes to my mind, and again, this is like another dated Fight Club reference, I guess, is Where Is My Mind by the Pixies.
Okay.
Um is is one that I would go to. And I could probably come up with like 10 other
Well,
amazing
I ask a lot of people that
answers.
question. I tell them, I'm like, if there's multiple songs, you can break it down for different things. Like I had two answers in
Yeah.
mind because I have my anxiety, my depression songs, things like that. Because I love music. Music's a very
Mm,
big part of my life. I love music. Every time I get a musician in the studio, I love picking their brains about asking about things, what they feel about stuff. And I actually met a guy that's out of the Minnesota area named Joseph. He had lost a 12-year-old student to suicide 10 hours after writing a song called Weird Hearts, but he was using music as
mhm.
their outlet for these guys to come in and just kind of say how they feel about things. So it was an interesting question though,
Yeah.
because somebody asked me that too. I was like, you know what? That's a real fun one. Let's see what it comes up to. So, Amanda, it's time for the last question of this interview. Okay. So, my
Okay.
question to you, and the reason I started this whole podcast is if you could break the stigma about mental health. Now, anything that you hear that you just want people to stop believing, what is that one thing you feel like is a common denominator?
Stop believing everything that you read on TikTok
Yes.
and on
Thank
the
you.
internet.
Thank you.
You
Somebody
don't
said it.
lots of like the internet has a lot of good information. It's a great place, but like you don't have to read and believe everything that you see online. And also, I think like just because you and your partner didn't work out, it doesn't mean that somebody has like a mental disorder. Sometimes, yes, right? Like, but that's you don't have to pathologize everything in order to like justify why you left someone. Like you
Sometimes it
said at the
just doesn't
beginning,
work.
right?
You
Like
know what I mean? Sometimes it
sometimes
just
you're just right. They're not your people, and that's fine. And you can move on, and um, it doesn't have to be a thing.
yeah.
And I guess the final thing that I'll say, which I tell to everybody, is I think it's really important the way to know if something is a problem, which is that if it's interfering with other parts of your life. So if you are a social drinker and you're in a world of social drinkers and that's fine. But if you are a social drinker and that's interfering with your interpersonal relationships or financial or work or something, right? Like that's when you can tell if it's a problem. Like whenever the thing is like seeps out into the rest of your life.
Right.
And that's a good place to kind of get some support.
I love it. Amanda, thank you so much for coming to hang out. It was so nice to meet you. I'm so happy for the
You
book.
too.
Listen, I'm going to
Thanks.
send you the same invite I tell all my other authors to come in here. When you get ready to write that next book or whatever, you hit me up because you are more than welcome to come back and visit me because I had a great time hanging out with you. Before we wrap up this episode, where can everybody find you? Do you want to plug a website? You want to plug your socials?
Sure.
Let them have it.
Okay, so I have a website, but it's not the greatest. I don't really know that much about web design, but it's I'mAlmostOK.com is my website. A better place to find me is probably on Instagram. The tag is Amanda E. Landis.
Mm-hmm.
And you can also find my book, which is out in a bunch of different formats on Amazon. And at some point, I'm going to be recording an audiobook, but I haven't done that
There
yet. But
you
it's
go.
out in other formats there now.
There you go. Well, listen, Amanda, we're going to put all those links in the bio for everybody. Let me know when you get that audiobook so
Great,
I can update it for everybody.
for sure.
And once again, thank you so much for coming hang out with me today. It was real great. I enjoyed meeting you. Like I said, you're more than welcome to come back and hang out with me anytime. We could sit here and quote movies all day. I got you. Don't worry.
I would love that. I would love that. I'll come
So,
prepared.
and with that being said, guys, we're going to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. You guys know where to find me at Pete vs. Anxiety on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify all the way down to Pandora Radio. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you do can save somebody's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety, so I'm saying, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health?